All right, guys. Thank you again for joining the No Offense podcast. Welcome back. If you've been here before and if it's your first time, you're in for a treat. Thank you so much for watching the stream. Wherever you might be watching this, please make sure you hit that share button. As far as I know, it's still free. And we are a support network. So we definitely appreciate your time. We're going to make the most of it. As always, we've got a very interesting group of people for you guys to meet. And today we have Dame, a very very interesting age group who is definitely making waves. If you haven't heard their audio on my story last week, we're gonna find out how you can hear all about their catalog before I let them go today. So do me a favor again. The comment section is open. If you're watching on YouTube, you do need to hit the subscribe in order to open up the comment section. We are very excited to hear what you might have to ask, and if we have time, we're going to try to address it. If not, I'll try to follow up with your answer. So, without further ado, we're going to make the most of our guest time. Help me welcome Veronica and Brian. Dane.
Sound the trumpets! Hi, everybody. Veronica here with Dame. And this is Brian, my partner in crime. We are a rock and roll band, theatrical art rock. But we both, Brian and I, we have about 40 years of touring and recording experience between us. So we've both been in the different corners of the music world industry, but we've just started this new project, our brand new project about a year ago. We've been releasing music since last July, so still brand new and fresh. So, when you look up our name on the streaming platforms, make sure to type Dame and then a title of a song like Get Tough or Dame Dream Song, because there's about hundreds and hundreds of dames on the platforms. So we are just now building our presence.
That's right. But the name Dame came from the fact that you were knighted in France.
Right? Yes. A lot of people ask what is the imagery, the knight imagery and the Renaissance imagery. It's because I was in 2023 knighted in France, and that was a huge, huge honor. My music has kind of touched people over there, and that kind of, I had my original music for years, but not knowing what to do with it or what the concept would be. And when I was knighted, of course, the Joan of Arc imagery came to be, and the French Revolution, and also like pre-war Germany, pre-war France, kind of like this impending doom of what was to come, and how these great women in history kind of, they changed the course of time, and these great women kind of make their way into our music, and that's the concept for Dame. We kind of pay homage to these women, but also it's just a great rock band.
Man, it is. For one, that is definitely how you make an intro, and I love everything about you. It's the fact that there's this power and just how your presentation and just how you present yourselves as far as your music. That is it quickly encapsulates everyone's attention, and I love that. I feel like if you're going to make a statement, you definitely got attention's got to be the first thing on the to be grabbed. And you guys found a way to do that. Speaking of which, this is a No Offense podcast. My audience is pretty familiar, and the song that we have been promoting the most, my favorite is "Fucking Mess." I'm sorry, it is.
What was that again? Say
it is "Fucking Mess." Excuse me. I have to go ahead and put some respect on that. Yes, sir. It was a completely. I love the visuals for the teasers that's been going on, and I love just the attitude. It's just the accountability that's in it. It's like, you know what, this is just what it is. Can you talk to us a little bit about what went into the creative process, and how did you finally decide on the visuals that this was going to be the way that this song needed to be presented as far as an aid?
Yeah, sure. Well, the song, usually I've been writing music kind of with a solitary approach, because I spend so much time touring by myself that a lot of the songs come that way. But this song was different from the rest. When I moved to LA in 2022, I started kind of writing collaborations with numerous people, one of which was singer-songwriter Robbie Neville, who had that hit C'est La Vie in the, was it 80s, 90s? But he, of course, was on the writing team for High School Musical, so he knows theater, he knows rock. And his favorite band is Queen, just like ours. So Robbie was a kind of a quick friend of mine. moving here, and we collaborated on some songs, and he had that opening chord progression, the piano in the opening of the song.
Right.
That actually is Jason Robert Brown on the piano, who brought those chords to Robbie about 10, 15 years ago. Jason Robert Brown, for those who don't know, is one of the most prolific and famous kind of Broadway musical theater composers and lyricists. He wrote Parade the last 5 years. I've been singing his music since high school. So when I heard that Jason had these chords and that Robbie built a track around it, I said, oh my God, let me at it. And the chords, as you can hear, they're kind of all over the place. It's like, whoa, what is this? And to me, I was like, wow, those chords are a fucking mess. And the song sort of wrote itself. And I'm very narrative driven.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I hear even vocal music, I kind of see it like a play or a film playing in my head. And then when I heard the track, that kind of, I said, wow, this is a fucking mess, which that's such an intense word. But then I heard the beat and I was like, wow, that's kind of like the juxtaposition between nonchalant goofiness and haphazardness, but with like this story of this woman whose life is actually falling apart. And I thought maybe the visuals, Brian and I put our heads together about the music video. Do you want to kind of tell about the music video?
Yeah, well, and just to add to your further vision for Dame being like a real rock band and expression of that, the original Fucking Mess demo was actually a little bit more akin to like Michael Jackson's The Way You Make Me Feel. It was like like that kind of thing. And Veronica kind of was like, maybe there's a kind of like 70s rockish kind of Gary Glittery kind of homage thing we could do with it. So it turned into the that kind of thing. And from that, and we basically recorded all the instruments here at home. And the video then came about too. We've been working for several months now with our friend Declan Adams, and just a fantastic videographer and director here. And yeah, it was bringing to life the story of this character, this girl who's reckoning with her life, having run amok and woken up late for class and rushing in her car and not knocking somebody out.
Everything
in the street.
just falls apart bit by bit.
Right.
And you can see in the guitar solo, like she's trying to get her life back on track, and she's going for all these jobs. She works in the office, but she can't hack it there. Then she's kind of just like working her way through the job chain of jobs, and it's just not working out for this poor girl.
And it seems like she just never gave up. Like, you know what, it is what it is, but we're gonna get through it. We're just gonna keep rolling through it. And that's what I really took from it. I said, you know what, I feel like everybody can relate to this at some point. You know what I'm saying? It's not as much as I would like it to be, but it is what it is. It's a mess, but we're getting through it. Tomorrow will be better.
What I've discovered is a lot of people are relating to it how it relates to the world we're in right now. Whatever kind of side of the world you're on, we're just like, wow, this world is kind of a fucking mess right now. Nice. Our industry is completely being overrun and taken over by AI stuff. So we're just kind of watching it all happen and seeing how the cards are going to fall or going to land. And so this song kind of speaks to that too, which has been how it relates to people. Yeah,
there's always a couple of different ways that you can interpret it. One is that sort of you're reckoning and sort of looking in the mirror going like, oh my God, what have I done, letting my life kind of slip away? Right. And the other is kind of looking like, again, with the world around you sort of falling apart and trying to find your place within that. But at either instance, you reach sort of a crossroads where you can then, of your own free will, make a decision to change and regain control of your life. And I think that ultimately is like kind of
and beware the nostalgia of the past.
Yeah, don't live in the past.
That's what the bridge is about. When we go to the 1920s kind of silent film sections, we romanticize our past, whether it's a relationship or like another life we lived or our childhood, and we sometimes forget about why things didn't work out that back then. And
the controlling chaos, man, that was. Dude, I absolutely think it was brilliant. I'm happy to be able to give that to you guys, because from a fan looking at it, I felt like this is what art is supposed to be. Like, this can perfectly encapsulate a moment and emotion that no matter when you revisit it, it has some meaning. And I feel like that's something that maybe AI, I know a lot of people cook things. I call it the cooking method. It's fast. It's right now. I feel like what gives art that special je ne sais quoi is the fact that it has human emotion in it. And so definitely, guys, keep going with the artistry. We need it. No matter how much AI they make, it still won't be able to replace you. Speaking of rock production has changed drastically over the last decade. Like you said, we're getting more technology. The way people record is different and has evolved. And you do have that experience in the history. What's one traditional rock rule that you intentionally wanted to break with this project?
A rock rule to break. Well, I guess if there was any particular sense of like keeping things in one particular aesthetic box, going like, okay, we can't have that and we can't have that and we can't have this, and it's got to be this kind of like tightly fitted mold to achieve this certain aesthetic. One of the things I'll say I've noticed is that a lot of rock bands work really diligently to copy an exact sound from a particular era out of like a type of respect and paying homage and stuff like that. But one of the things I've always incorporated, and Veronica as well too, is if it's going to be an authentic expression coming from within you, if you feel it like automatically and intrinsically as a part of something that lights you up and makes you excited, feel free to incorporate that. So it's like keep the spectrum wide open of sounds, styles, little influences, any sort of spark of inspiration that speaks to you, rather than go like, all right, well, we need to kind of copy the Led Zeppelin thing, or we need to copy the Rolling Stones
we
thing.
Can't use that miking technique on this song because we're going for this aesthetic.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, I guess, in a way, not that it's not really there's rules per se, but it's
more of like adhering to whatever your real sense. It takes listening to like what's inside your head. My ambition as a collaborator always is to try to understand from the songwriter, right, where their initial spark of inspiration is coming from and how to really bring that to life. And sometimes you might get producers or people that go like, oh, you don't want to incorporate that, and we really just need to kind of stick to the plan of like how modern rock production sounds, because we want it to be accepted by playlists and we want to fit it into a certain kind of accepted criteria. All of that is just, again, out the window. And like you said, when you want to express a piece of art, you got to kind of let it flow unfiltered through your own sensibility and then work to craft it so it comes out as close to the way you want it, but not like preemptively censor yourself. And I think that's something that we try to work on.
Yes, and Brian is a really, to his credit, a great producer for me to work with, because I you know how sometimes with the songwriter, they get such a vision and clear idea of how they want the song to sound. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that can not necessarily put you in a box, but can put blinders on you, on your ears. And Brian is so good, he, as a producer, should be, of entertaining these other kind of routes we could take with whether it's drum sounds or a mic technique or even arrangement things that actually do improve the song and build upon the song. And that's the hard thing about what we do, is that there's no right or wrong way per se. Right. It's just a matter of like how you are expressing yourself in that your integrity in that moment, right?
I love that. I love that, and it comes off so genuine as well, which I feel like is a very important aspect and trait, and I feel like helps people gravitate towards your music and you as people. So definitely keep that going. So what's something that you may have believed about being a musician when you first started? I know you guys have got years that you've been honing this craft, that you believed when you first started that you now think is different.
Well, I definitely have an answer for that. You know what I'm going to say.
Please.
Yeah. Do you want to go first?
No,
or?
the floor is yours.
I have a very unique background in regards to being in the music industry per se. I grew up in a jazz musician family, and I grew up on the road kind of slugging it out in clubs with mom and dad and singing professionally at 9 years old. So I grew up in the jazz world bubble, which it really is like its own world and bubble, apart from the rest of the world. That's a blessing and a curse, of course. On the one hand, you have this kind of world that nurtures you, and as long as you kind of stick with the protocol, singing standards, singing a certain kind of repertoire a certain way, which is what I grew up doing, then you're like kind of you're accepted. We protect our own kind of thing. So I had been trained to think early on in my career that, okay, so if I just have work on my craft and be really good and ready in the moment and work hard on my music and my singing and make sure the show is great and the talent's there, everything is in place, then I'm going to be fine. And what I didn't have was the skills to be an independent artist until much later, when I started to divert from the jazz path and go down this path, the rock original music. That's when I met Brian, and he kind of showed me all the things that independent artists, coming from the Dresden Dolls, which is the epitome of like people who have like done it themselves before, really hitting big, and they knew exactly all the pieces that had to be in place to function independently. I didn't have that. So that was a huge wake-up call. That was about 5 years ago. So I was like 27. I was like, wow, these are all the things that I have to learn. I wasn't, there were definitely days where I was feeling depressed because I felt, wow, like kind of like the fucking mess girl. Wow, all my life has gone by and I haven't developed the skills necessary. But I was developing different skills, right? And it's what I learned is that you can't have any regrets or anything like that, because I had skills that got me here. Right. And to meeting Brian, to meeting you, right? So who knows that if I had started out with doing my original project, I may not be in this position, right? I just can't think that way. So I guess what I thought that is now different is there's nothing guaranteed in this world, in this business, in this life. Nothing is guaranteed just because you have the talent, just because you do the work. It really just, a lot of it is just kind of, what are the things you've been telling me, like this kind of lesson of,
well, it's a combination of like so many different elements of timing and who you are surrounding yourself with, what your personal emotional state of mind and heart it is at a given time, and your sort of given goals at a particular time. There's all the sort of industry things, and whether or not you're picking up on certain timings when things line up. There's a whole lot that goes into it, but no, yeah, you certainly have found your bearings on that, and that's a beautiful thing. I guess I would say the thing for me too that I realized was a very different, which I have to sort of look back and smile on now too, is like as a kid growing up in the sticks of southern New Hampshire, and my main time like away from school was just immersing myself in the sort of world of rock and roll and what people in working rock bands did. And I bought, when I was in the 5th and 6th grade, all those home videos of Aerosmith and Metallica and Pantera and Nirvana and Anthrax and blah, 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 and all the bands of that era, and sort of studying what they were doing. And so I just kind of took for granted that anybody who was pursuing a life in music was going to just risk it all and give everything they had to it. And like no holds barred, you just go through it. And then further down the line in my late teen years, when I became like a real fan of like Henry Rollins and Black Flag, and when I was reading Get in the Van, the kind of like level of commitment that you or people like, folks from that scene really do settle on, and all the people that I had been learning about, I realized that not everybody in the music world really does share that particular vision for how they see music in the context of their own life. And I remember, in that first sort of round of being in the Dresden Dolls with Amanda for about 7 years before I kind of stepped back to take a break and then joined a bunch of other bands. One of the first, in a way, kind of culture shock moments I had was joining several different bands who, when we kind of got going and into the flow, and I kind of by default wound up taking a sort of leadership position because I saw how things worked and was able to facilitate things. And I had, the desire to like make whatever project I have as successful and satisfying as possible. Right. And to do so, that requires a lot of responsibility and accountability. However, when it comes down to the actual getting up at, whatever o'clock in the morning to go do photo shoots or interviews or rehearsals or start the tour, starting to notice a level of resistance or a lack of interest even from people running these bands, like lead singers and people who had been doing these groups for well over a decade, that the same level of like, yeah, let's do this and make this happen. Oh man, this is great to finally have someone in the band that also really is driven to like make things happen. Right. That just in large part didn't exist. And I felt really kind of alone for many years, thinking that I was just some crazy, deranged, deluded person thinking that like music was like the answer and whatever. But, it's not. I guess it was just realizing that people feel a connection with music in a wide variety of contexts in their life and things that make them feel comfortable, connected, not pushed or pressured. And not everybody is, cut out for the like full-time, let's bring this band to the world kind of thing that other people are. And that's totally okay. But it does require a kind of vigilance in a way to make sure that you do work with people like I am now, with people that are, that level of excited and committed to seeing a band come to fruition and, go out in the world.
Right. No, I definitely think I commend you for definitely wanting to take your success into your own hands, because it's not that I don't feel like it's that other people don't want to be as successful, but like you said, there's a vigilance that's in there that wants to get to the way that you see yourself, and that that's a destination that you belong to, and you want to get there. So I commend you for making the moves to successfully reach that destination.
Well, it's to add to what you're saying too, is that it's also, like you said, that there's nothing wrong with it. One of the things being in a band really does is put the mirror up to who you are, where you stand on things, your relationship to money, success, commitment, responsibility, interpersonal relationships. And those things come to a head really quickly in any sort of working relationship like that. And people can, it's great. I've worked with numerous bands where they kind of find a little pocket, and that's a comfortable place for them to exist. So that's great. So, any other musicians, young musicians out there, don't feel that you have to give up or that you're, in the wrong state of mind if you do want to see things past where other people that you work with are at a given time. It's just really is about finding the right group of people and working and cultivating that relationship.
Man, I am again just honored to be able to document the wisdom that you guys have been able to gather and impart, and those who are going to be looking at this like, I want to be just like them. And there are tons of people out there, believe it or not, guys. You guys are making such a big impact. Speaking of which, as you're making impact, there were those that come before you. I heard earlier you said that there were, Queen is your favorite band. We've seen that the great Steve Perry has also come to your performances. Are there any plans or any hopes to one day do a collab with some of these greats, and so that you're great in your own right, and maybe we'll have the fans will be able to have that artwork with them as well?
Oh wow, yes, of course there is. There's who I would love to work with, absolutely. I'm just, when you start to enter into that world where you are meeting, of course at first there's the dream, right? It was my dream to meet Brian Viglione one day, let alone that I know we'd be in the same band or in a relationship together. Right. So manifestation power is a real thing. And it's also how I met other heroes of mine, including Steve Perry. I just put that out there. And also one big one for me is Brian May, to have Brian May, the guitarist of Queen, collaborate with us one day. But I think really I want to be careful not to, jump the gun so much, right? It's just about, we got to put ourselves out there first. And by doing that, did I know Steve Perry was going to come to our show? No. That was just a totally random. I remember I was having this day before the show, I was having a pretty bad day. I was feeling kind of depressed and anxiety and on the verge of crying for whatever reason. And when my friend told me Steve was coming, boom, it was like I could finally see the path, the path ahead again, and it's just by putting yourself out there daily, constantly. It's consistency is that key, right? For the 100 posts that you make, the one post may reach that person. You just never know. So I think for me, it's just a matter of now just stick with the program, keep on keeping on, and putting that out there. Like we have now, Glenn Hughes has become a fan and follower.
And Nikki Sixx.
That's
so sweet.
That's not something I could have ever, we're constantly seeing them like and comment on our posts. And so I think just a matter of just keeping with it and developing that from a very respectful, I don't want to come across too strong, right? Of course, it's just a matter of respecting the space and respecting, the careers they've made. And it has to, I guess, come from them too. So one day, it'd be great to work with Brian May, I think.
Yeah. And sometimes things do, pop out as just total surprises too. So I'm open to that. Yeah, any exciting things.
Like working with Brian. Brian is a band that he's been in for 20 plus years called the Dresden Dolls, and that band was a huge, huge inspiration to me growing up. I was 12 years old, and I was just in love with Brian, in love with the band, in love with the message. And now we're starting this band together. It's unreal.
Man, that sounds like a true rock love story. I'm so happy for you guys, and we can't wait to see, what comes from this, like the magic, the music. Speaking of which, you got these great musical minds in a relationship, and you get focused, you get ready to make this music. When you hit a creative wall during the writing, who plays the mediator, and who holds out the longest on their vision?
We haven't exactly hit that due to how prolific Veronica is with writing songs. It's usually like, whoa, okay, good, all right. We have like 40 songs now. Hang on, give me a second. I got to learn the other like 39 that just came up.
The next 5 albums are already planned. No.
Yeah, it's the kind of cool thing is that it really isn't. It's the dynamic is not one of like a sort of battle of creative control or having to make decisions like that. For example, just the other day when we were tracking a song, it had sort of like a kind of a late 60s Beatlesy kind of thing as like just a baseline sort of reference. As we were kind of building guitar parts with our guitar player, Adam, I was starting to hear ideas were coming in. I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm here because sort of like a Johnny Greenwood, like Radiohead kind of thing. And Veronica was like, no. That's like not that direction. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, tell me more about. She's like, oh, it's much more like the vintagey 60s, early 70s thing. I was like, cool.
I come from the past. I'm
well,
like...
no, it's not even that. It's just sort of like the point is that like it's not about sort of arguing or needing to necessarily convince. Like it's not like a John Lennon, Paul McCartney thing where it's like, well, whose songs are going to get on and what creative direction. My whole desire is to help Veronica achieve what she's hearing as the songwriter, come as close to what's in her head.
Sometimes it is very specific. And sometimes I'm just bringing an idea to Brian and or even Adam, our guitar player, who's also fantastic. And I say, I don't know what to do here. I have plenty. It's like kind of a wide variety and spectrum. Since my songwriting isn't just from the 60s and 70s style, I'm also writing, like we have a song coming out in the fall that's very kind of Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, industrial hard rock. Yep. So we have a wide spectrum. Just because of the time traveler concept for this project, it fits that stylistically we do that as well.
Sure. But I would say to answer your question, it's like all right, well, what do we do if we hit crossroads and we're not sure? You basically start asking yourself, what is the ultimate sort of impact and emotional shape of the song? What is the intention of the song? Right? Are we trying to be dynamic? Does it come down? Like what sort of emotions are we trying to evoke?
Story,
yeah. Once you get that established and right, like you say, like sort of the narrative and like how you're telling that story, from there, you try to use the orchestration in a way that supports that. You try to be dynamic, right? Do we want the guitars to go really big here? Or we bring everything down so that the vocal pops through? And like, it's all about where are you drawing attention for the listener? And how does that serve the song in particular? You know, whereas like some bands might go like, all right, well, it's a metal band, it's a metal record. We just need to make sure like the kick drums are super hard and the riffage is tight and the whatever. And there might be a sort of an overarching style. It really is very much song to song where we craft and give that.
And we are always trial and error too. Like, let's just try it. It can't hurt. You can always delete it. So we're very much. We're all open-minded in this band to try and like hear everybody's ideas out.
Yeah, and I have to give Veronica major props on the recording and engineering side as well. 2 years ago, for example, when Veronica and I first started kind of cohabitating, I would be, out for like a 3-hour rehearsal with my band, Radiator King, my buddies here. And I would come home and Veronica would be like, baby, you want to hear my new song? I have a whole thing. And she would have like a whole, like a 30-track, like 6-part vocal harmony, like guitar, bass, drums, background vocals, like tracked in Logic, like finished demo. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible. And so Veronica has become really adept too at like vocal stacking. And so that really is a major part of what's going on as well too. We'll find the general feel of the song, and then Veronica will kind of like make the shape of where the vocals and all the harmonies are going to fit and that part of thing. So it really works very well in that. We kind of, I don't know, we feel gaps.
Best of two minds coming together to make the magic happen. I absolutely love it. I've got a couple more questions, guys, and you guys have been doing phenomenal. Is there a specific song in your catalog that feels emotionally either difficult or heavy to perform live because of where you were personally when you wrote it?
Well, I don't have issues with performing songs that are incredibly personal and vulnerable.
Mhm.
I've had a lot of practice singing, in the jazz world, very personal songs that are very, you know, this has always been a strong suit of mine.
Mhm.
Being a performer, you've got to be able to perform in the hard moments. And my father, great bebop piano player, Howard O'Brien, he was my pianist and my accompanist pretty much my entire life. And then he passed away 10 years ago. And in the last 10 years, I've been singing the songs that we performed together. And of course, I can get to that place where I'm conveying how the emotions of losing a father. Also, I lost a house in a house fire too, and I sing a lot of songs about that. But I've never had an issue with, like, it's not like I can't perform that song, I've never had this problem.
That it cuts too close to the bone to be
Yeah,
able to
I
actually
actually like to do those kinds of songs because, I every song I pick, whether it's singing jazz music, which is written by other people, or every song I write, is from a very specific experience. There are, of course, some songs that are more personal than others. We have a song that we're releasing next year that I wrote with one of our kind of past members, but also, like, he's still kind of in the, once a member is always a member. I think you're part of the, like, collective. It's really a collective, this band.
Mhm.
I was writing this song with him, and it's a song called More or Less, and it's about, interesting how it, like, sometimes you write a song before something happens, and then it happens. It's almost like you
write it into
Right
existence.
into
write it into existence. But the song More or Less, which will come out next year, is kind of a song about, like, not really sure where you stand. You're black and white, you're hot and cold on whether it's a relationship or an issue, and not really being able to make a decision, and kind of just not being stuck in the middle, because you're both, but just not making a decision, right? Making a stance, clear line in the sand.
Uncommitted, yeah.
Uncommitted, yeah. And I remember when things happened, that song was actually when it suddenly became, like, about what happened between us, and it was like, whoa, the song kind of that I wrote itself into existence, like Brian said. So sometimes that song, it hits me, but it's always after the fact. In the moment of performing and singing, it's almost like it's a delayed response, a delayed reaction. So I'll just cleaning dishes in the kitchen, and I'll start crying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys for answering these questions. It's just, when we're listening to the people who find a way to embody the emotions of this lifetime, it's truly an awe how accurate and that you guys are with your depiction and your encapsulation of that time period. So from a fan to the artist, I want to say thank you for doing that for us, because sometimes we can't find the words, and when you guys take the time and you nail it perfectly, sometimes all we can do is put on that song and know that somebody else gets it. Right?
That's wow. I don't have the words. I know.
Yeah,
That's-
I feel that I can tell you that was what you just said was the fundamental underpinning that I remember when I was a teenager and kind of thinking about what was I going to do with my life. I did very poorly academically, and, coming from a place that was, like, not a lot of opportunity around. And I thought to myself, like, what's the most meaningful thing to me that I can give to my time on the planet? And I just thought, like, I want to be a part of the continuum of musicians that help kids like me. If I can be in a band that makes music that can help somebody else get through their day and embolden them and strengthen them and give them the resolve to keep pushing forward, into the light, that's what I want to give my time to. And it's been such an honor to play with Veronica, to do that, and to watch such, this person emerge, in Veronica's life, that I realized sort of layer by layer when I had first met Veronica, from listening to her beautiful album, This Bitter Earth, on which she covered a Dresden Dolls song, Sing. That's how we actually kind of met, to seeing this sort of formation of Dame and Veronica finally really be able to express her own songwriting in her own group is such a beautiful thing to be able to share with the world. And it sort of ties in with like the iconography of, like you're talking about, you know, like these great women figures who found their strength and their vision, the ability to share that with the world. We can kind of draw strength from those people, you know, from those archetypes that find the resolve to say, like, I have a voice. This is what I want to share with the world. It's important to me. And anybody that feels like joining along with me is welcome. And we're proud to share that with everybody. So thank you so much, Matt, for having us on the show today.
It's truly been an honor, guys. I always ask. I know. I tell the audience they don't know what I'm going to ask them. It's called the No Offense Podcast. Most times people get a message like, "Hey, we want to have you on the show. Would you mind coming?" And I know you got to think like, "What is this guy going to ask me when we get on here?" Now that you come through the show, we just wonder as we continue to watch you, you know, hit these heights. In the future, if we were to tap you on the shoulder, say, "Hey, Dame, it's been a while. We're just wondering if we could pick your brain again. Would you sit down with us again?"
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, and this is like an incredible opportunity too, because this is still. I mean, Brian and I have been doing this for both of us so long, and this band has been in the kind of development for like 5 years. But we are a brand new, just recently putting out music last July, and so it's just now begun, really. And to get to share those different stages of the journey with people through it would be great to like kind of document different stages as we go along, to see where we were with you, the first one, and then the second one, and see how things have changed and developed. That would be a really great opportunity. So we'd love to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you can, please, the last thing if you could leave our audience with is, what should they know about Dame as far as what's coming up, where they can follow you, they can support. We're a big, huge support network. And after they leave this interview, they need to be headed over to your page to hit that follow button.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah. So on Instagram, Dame Band Official, and the website is Dame the Band, and YouTube is obviously YouTube at Dame the Band. So those are the three main sites that you can see all the music. And like Veronica said earlier, just go to whatever your sort of music, streaming platform of choice is. And for example, type Dame Get Tough, and then you can click our artist profile and follow along there. That really helps us and will help you keep connected to like our releases and that kind of thing where we are. But yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow along on Instagram. We always have new music, new singles and videos, live footage. We actually just had a blast staying with our friend Colette over in Kent, England, playing at Kingsgate Castle. Sort of a funny moment arose where Veronica and I were talking about rehearsing for this acoustic gig we had coming up in Los Angeles. And Colette was like, "Oh my God, you guys have a gig? Great. Hang on, let me call everybody in the building and we'll get a show together. 7 p.m.? 7 p.m. sound good? And we'll both play. Mike and I'll play." And before we knew it, we were like playing in the courtyard of this castle by these white sandstone cliffs. It was just absolutely amazing. So footage from that is going up, and we'll just have all sorts of continuing adventures of
Great Dames as well. We have I have a couple of series. Of course, I put out my covers. A lot of them are Queen. We do other classic rock covers. That's how I kind of have been connecting with the classic rock fans out there. They discover us through those. And the Great Dames Reels is a big kind of thing I like to do that's interactive with people on our, we have a Instagram live group called the Damedom. And that's where I actually ask the fans and the audience, who do you want me to cover next week? And so Great Dames is just videos where I cover a different awesome woman in history, whether it's Joan of Arc or, Josephine Baker, Olympe de Gouges, famous female jesters, all run the whole course of time in history.
And remind people, how did they join the Damedom? What is the link to join?
You follow us on Instagram, and there's a button in our profile that says the Damedom, and so you just click that and join.
There you go. Guys, we absolutely have appreciated all the time that you've given us today. Dame, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the platform, and we will reach out to the schedule for next time. Until then, we definitely will be watching your success, and we'll be streaming that music, because my life is definitely a fucking mess.
Not for long.
Thanks, Matt.
Oh, thanks, Matt. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. All right, guys. This concludes our interview with Dame today. Do me a favor, man. As you can tell, they're definitely a wonderful group of people, a wonderful rock band as well. And you don't have to take my word for it. We just gave you instructions on how you can follow their page. When you leave here, we're already on YouTube. If you're here, make sure that you go over to their page. If you're watching on Facebook or Instagram, I make sure to tag them in the story so you can make sure to follow them there. And we will catch you next time here on the No Offense Podcast. Oh, remember, don't wait on the world to change when you can be the one to change the world. Peace.